Before I begin, I just want to say a few things. Number 1, this review will contain spoilers for The Devil is a Part-Timer. Number 2, I am only reviewing the first season of the anime and none of the manga. Number 3, I am only using still images to help evade copyright. Number 4, I apologize in advance if I mispronounce any names. I sometimes struggle with proper pronunciation. Anyway, The Devil is a Part-Timer is a 2013 anime produced by White Fox and directed by Naoto Hosada about Satan and his attempts to conquer the land of Ante Isla. The hero, later known as Emilia Justina, thwarts the devil's plans, forcing him and one of his 4 generals, Asio, to retreat through a portal to an unknown world. This world turns out to be modern-day Japan. Transformed into humans, Satan and Asiel, who renamed themselves Sadao Mao and Shiro Ashiya respectively, must scramble to adapt to their new surroundings and survive. Hilariously, Mao ends up working at a fast food place called McDonald's, and many hijinks ensue. So I had watched Mirai Nikki right before this, finishing it a few days ago as a matter of fact. It really captivated me, but I wanted something lighter to watch afterwards. In flipping through Netflix, I decided upon The Devil is a Part-Timer, completely on a whim. Thankfully, it did the trick. Perhaps if you're in the same boat as I was, then this show would make a good palate cleanser for you as well. For me, the comedy is rarely laugh-out-loud funny, but at least it often has me smiling or chuckling. It's fun seeing all the brand name evasion, and I especially love jokes regarding Mao and Ashiya's landlady Miki. I really hate it when an anime has superfluous characters, and this show unfortunately falls victim to that a little bit, but at least the main cast is pretty solid. I'm going to save talking about Mao for later, so moving on, Ashiya is likable as basically the nanny of the household. His devotion to Mao is comedically over the top, and the pair have great chemistry together. Chio, though a typical big-breasted kawaii girl, serves the story well by inspiring a lot of warmth and relationship building between the other characters. Suzuno's personality is a little blah, but at least the situations she finds herself in are interesting and usually funny. I think Lucifer is probably the weakest of the main characters, since after his introduction he doesn't have much of a direct impact on the plot, but even then he has his moments as the punching bag of the group. Emmy, though, she steals the show in the character department for the flashback at the beginning of episode 4 alone. However, she is also annoying sometimes. Because she butts her way into so many scenes and has a bit of a tsundere thing going on, she can get a little exhausting to watch mid-season. I wanted more scenes with just she and Mao, for example. I'm a good sucker for a decent ship, and they are pretty cute together. On to the useless characters. Miki indicates to Mao and Ashiya midway through the show that she knows who they really are and is fully aware of Ante Isla, but nobody really makes a big deal out of it, and she basically disappears for the rest of the show after that. Emmy's comrades, Emeralda and Albertio, briefly appear at the end of episode 5, but they do nothing throughout the whole show. Emeralda has like 2 cell phone conversations with Emmy, and by the way, how do they connect cell phone lines between worlds? And Albert never appears again. Well worth putting both of them in the opening credits, guys. It sucks because these characters had some potential to be interesting or make a difference in the plot, but they never really do. Oh well. Given its premise, most of the show is spent in the daily slice-of-life situations in Japan. The 2 distinct worlds of Ante Isla and Japan clash, confounded by the fact that proportionally speaking far more time is spent in the latter rather than the former. Nowhere is the imbalance clearer than the fact that the climactic battle with the angel Sariel occurs in episode 12, while episode 13 just concerns the characters trying to get out of a scam. Sort of a strange way to end the season, don't you think? I get that the main emphasis of the show is on the slice-of-life aspect, but given the existence of Ante Isla within the show, the action scenes, and who the pedigree of the characters are in popular lore, without much context, I feel there's some missed opportunities here. Any action scenes that bear consequences or any real character development, while animated beautifully, are so few and far between that they almost feel like an afterthought, which dampens some of their tension. Some entire episodes feel relatively needless, with only the most basic of plot progression or character development during. For example, episode 10, where Mao works at the Tanabata festival while the main female characters explore its many sites. That whole episode, by the way, is kind of host to some dumb anime cliches. The prominent female characters all wear swimsuits throughout, so we get a little bit of fan service. Amy is jealous of Chi's breast size, and Mao's naturally totally oblivious to Chi coming on to him. You get the kind of stuff that I mean. The whole concept of the show is an oft-explored novelty, really, but that's not a bad thing per se. I think it's a very human thing to want to place humanity or humanizing elements into non-human things. Generally, the devil, Beelzebub, the beast, the great adversary, sometimes called Satan or Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, is usually depicted in Christian theology as the ultimate evil creature, the opposite of God, which feeds off the misery, despair, and greed in the hearts of men. What if, however, the devil could see and experience firsthand what being human is really like? Could he be redeemed then? It's always an interesting question to pose and explore. Mao was redeemed, naturally, but the problem with him is that we don't really get enough of a sense that he is the devil, so the transition from the devil to sort of hero of Japan feels quite paltry and devoid of impact. In other words, he's basically a good guy from the outset. The first episode where he is actually the devil comes and goes in a flash, and I'm sorry, but occasionally looking a little creepy with red eyes and horns doesn't really cut it for me. Wasn't the devil's initial plan to climb up the corporate ladder and conquer the earth? When exactly does he decide to protect and care for all the regular people in the world? I mean, remember, the earthquake and collapse of the mall, where he saves everyone from being crushed to death, only happens 3 episodes in. Had there been a bit more emphasis on the transition, then Mao would have been a much more interesting and fleshed out protagonist, albeit more of an anti-hero. But then, is the devil being an anti-hero such a stretch? With all that said, I do like Mao as he is. The natural consequence of not acting more like the stereotypical devil is that he is more likable than otherwise. For example, I laud the fact that he shows mercy to everyone he fights, as none of them feel so evil as to be beyond redemption. He does feed off the misery and despair of the humans around him, to be fair, but then he always uses this power for good, i.e. restoration of destructed property and memory erasure. I love episode 9 too. It's hilarious seeing him take his McRonald's job as seriously as he does, at one point acting as commander to his McRonald troops. And the promotional tree idea makes for some sweet imagery with the background characters and Chi. Really, my main problem with the show is sort of its lost potential, but that doesn't really hold the show back in my eyes. Rest assured, every episode, even episode 10, was fun to watch, and the amusing character interactions carry the show throughout. I really like The Devil as a Part-Timer. There's only 1 season, at least so far, 13 episodes, and it's currently on Netflix. The manga has been ongoing, so perhaps a lot of problems regarding character development or backstory are addressed there. But to be honest, I'm not really interested in manga in general, and even if I was, I think it's still cheap that supplemental reading is required to finish and fully appreciate any series as a whole. As it stands, The Devil is a Part-Timer anime is incomplete, and in 4 long years to my knowledge, a 2nd season has not yet been officially confirmed. Of course, there's always hope. I won't pretend to know all the ins and outs of the anime industry, but there's probably enough manga material for it by now, and I believe the makers of the show are well aware of its popularity. So I think we may eventually see a 2nd season. If and when it comes, I will retitle this video The Devil is a Part-Timer Season 1 review, and then promptly watch the new season. So that's about all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please consider liking this video, leaving a comment below, and or subscribing. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.